Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Hayden, can you hear me?
I can. I see you live on Facebook.
Okay, excellent. Aaron, can you hear me? Aaron, do you mind unmuting? I just want to confirm if you're just doing a little sound check, make sure that you can hear me. Okay, I'm just waiting. Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, Hayden, can you hear me?
I'm just getting the
I
background.
can. I see you live on Facebook.
Okay, great.
Okay, excellent. Aaron, can you hear me?
Just getting the feedback. Okay, so if everybody can just go on.
Aaron, do you mind unmuting? I just want to confirm a little sound check, make sure that you can hear me.
Okay, recording has started. And if everybody can just go on mute,
Tony, can you hear me?
so I don't get a
Yes, I
playback.
Okay, Hayden, can you hear me?
Just getting the
I can.
background.
I see you live on Facebook.
Okay, great.
Okay, excellent. Aaron, can you hear me?
Just getting the feedback.
Okay, so if everybody can just go on. Aaron, do you mind unmuting? I just want to confirm a little sound check, make sure that you can hear me. Okay, recording has started. And if everybody can just go on mute, Can you hear me?
so I don't get. Okay, there's a little bit of delay with the sound. I'm just going to get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to CCaDiRA Live webinar series. My name is Melba Da Silva, board member of CCaDiRA Live and vice chair of Carry On. And I will be your host for this evening, representing the Canadian Caribbean Disaster Relief Action, CCaDiRA. And we are an umbrella organization representing the various Caribbean communities in the Greater Toronto Area. At this time, I'd like to recognize our member organizations, the Antigua and Barbuda Relief Emergency Canada, Security Awareness for Emergency for Dominica, Safety, Grenada Disaster Preparedness Committee, St. Lucia Disaster Preparedness Committee, and St. Vincent Carry On conducting active relief impacting our nation. CCaDiRA was formed with the objective of strengthening disaster preparedness and response activities between Canada and the other Caribbean regions. In these unprecedented times, we are seeking ways to support the Caribbean diaspora, both in Canada and back home. As such, we'll be hosting a series of webinars to address important topics such as COVID-19. As a result of the overwhelming requests from our previous segments on bereavement and COVID-19, this evening's session will be discussing finances and life insurance and impact and changes in these areas. So I just want to give you a little bit of stats of where we are right now. In Ontario, confirmed cases is over 15,000. We have recovered just over 8,000 and have recorded up to date 951 deaths. In Canada, nationally, we have confirmed over 50,000 cases, recovered over 19,000 cases, and have over 2,859 deaths. Worldwide, we're at 3.1 million, recovered over 938,000 and 218,000 deaths worldwide. As far as job losses, because we're talking about financial security here this evening, in March, Canadian job losses were over 1 million and over 400,000 here in Ontario. So at this time, we do have a few people who will be speaking this evening about these subjects. And I'd like to introduce Tony Knight. She's a member of our CCaDiRA board with experience in social services and hospitality. She is currently working as the housing support manager in Aurora House and transitional home for individuals who have been trafficking into and within Canada. As a frontline worker, Tony keeps up to date on potential supports, both governmental and non-governmental, that may benefit her residents. So welcome, Tony. Thank you for speaking with us this evening and the wider community. And we just want to just have you say hello to our members and our wider audience. And we just want to discuss what a financial finances are available for those who have suffered job losses as a result of COVID-19. So I think you're still muted there, Tony. I'm just going to unmute you here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Tony.
Okay, so I guess first let's start with just a brief rundown. So as you stated, COVID-19 has vastly impacted a lot of us and has impacted our finances. I speak from personal experience as well as experience dealing with my residents day to day. So I want to talk today about employment insurance, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. We're also going to talk today briefly about the tax credit that is available and many of us should have already received, the enhanced Canada Child Benefit, different supports available to seniors, and then finally financial supports available to both Canadian students and our international students. So clear this off. So let's start first with employment insurance. If you have lost your job, typically you would apply through EI or employment insurance. This would be a process in which you would have to collect or have your employer submit a record of employment on your behalf to Service Canada. And then following that submission, you would apply for employment insurance if you are eligible and have worked the required number of insurable hours, right? However, if you have been laid off due to COVID-19, you are, as an employed individual and a self-employed individual, eligible for the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, right? And so there are two things to keep in mind. If you applied for your EI before CERB became a thing, so that means if your application went in March 15th or after, then you don't need to reapply for the CERB. Your application has now been rolled over to CERB. If you have applied for employment insurance prior to the 15th, then you will continue to remain on employment insurance. However, if the funds you're receiving are less than the CRB amount, which is 500 weekly and 2,000 monthly, they will bump you up or top you up if you're receiving less than that. If you're receiving more than that through traditional EI, I think the maximum is 575 weekly, then you will be bumped down to the 500 and the 2,000 monthly. What happens with CERB now is that you are eligible on a monthly basis on a 4-week period. So you need to reapply for each 4-week period separately. And you would need to make sure that your eligibility still remains intact every time you apply. Let's see.
So I just had a question about that, Tony. So once you submit your application, how long does it take, roughly?
So you can apply. So it depends. I'm strongly recommending, and Service Canada and CRA are also strongly recommending, that those who are applying submit direct deposit information so that they can receive their funds sooner. If you're applying using direct deposit, you should receive your payment after your application has already been processed within 3 days. If you are receiving your payment via check, then it's 10 business days as opposed to the 3 business days. The EI process, the application itself takes less than 30 minutes. I would say give yourself time if you're applying, because the online portal may kick you out due to the high volume. So just be patient with it. But once you apply, the process is that your application gets processed. Service Canada will send you a 4-digit PIN number that you would then use to verify yourself and your identity every time you submit a report. So for EI and those that are applying for CERB through Service Canada, through their EI, they will have to report every 2 weeks.
Okay. So this is for people who are recently unemployed or who have applied for EI prior to the benefits package. And you were saying that, just to recap, it's $500 per weekly. If you were receiving $575, you get bumped down. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's if you were already on EI. If you're already on EI prior to, you will remain on EI, right? If you are on EI, you will remain on EI. Let me start again. If you were on EI and you were receiving $575, then it's my understanding that you should either remain at that mark, or if they have bumped you over to the CERB, then you'll be reduced, right, to account for that. However, if you're receiving less than the 500, you would be bumped up if they are if they transition you over to the CERB. And those are for people who were already receiving EI benefits prior to the COVID pandemic.
Okay, excellent. So I just want to remind our audience once again for this webinar segment that you can type questions in either our YouTube, who is joining us live, or our Facebook, who's joining us live on any one of our feeds. We have some people monitoring our feeds right now, and we'll give a chance to maybe to answer those questions. If we don't get to all the questions, because we have quite a bit of information to cover in this segment, we will be producing a document and we'll be sharing it on our social media feeds and to our wider community about links to all of this information. Okay. So that's those who have lost their jobs. Who else qualifies? I heard something recently about students. Do elderlies, like what other funding is available?
So students have been a primary concern for CERB. So many students have graduated if it was their last year, or are transitioning to what they would have thought would have been summer jobs and summer employment. So it was recently announced, I believe as of last Wednesday, that there will be a Canadian emergency student benefit, and this will be for only Canadian students. So Canadian students residing in Canada and those that are studying abroad will qualify for this benefit. For our international students who are here in Canada studying, they hopefully or might qualify for CERB, right? So I just want to go through briefly what the qualifications are for CERB. So if you did not quit or terminate your employment voluntarily, if you live in Canada, so this is not it doesn't exclude anyone who doesn't necessarily have status, or maybe a temporary foreign worker, or maybe on a visa or on a work permit, right? It just says you have to live in Canada. You have to be 15 years or older. You have to have earned a minimum of $5,000 before taxes in the last 12 months. and this would have to be from employment income, self-employment income, or any federal or provincial benefits. And so if you are in line with these eligibility requirements, then you do qualify for CERB. So international students may qualify if these items apply to them.
Okay, excellent. And what about the elderly? Is there anything available for the elderly?
So the elderly, there's actually two things available to them that I've seen so far. So there's something known as the Ontario, and I know this is Canada-wide, and I'm kind of restricting this to Ontario, but there is the Ontario Guaranteed Annual Income System. And these are a series of monthly payments that seniors may receive. So if they are a recipient of this particular program system, then they are eligible for an additional $166 per month for individuals and $332 per month for couples. And this is not a support that they have to apply for. This will be automatically given to them. And the first payment should have been April 24th. Again, I'm sure that depends on whether or not you're set up for direct deposit or check. So if you haven't received your payment, then I would advise seniors to wait 10 business days and then give a call to an appropriate contact, whether it be through CRA or Service Canada. Another benefit specific to seniors is the Canadian government announced that they are lowering the RRIF withdrawal for this year. So what that is the Registered Retirement Income Fund, and they're reducing it by 25%. So this is only for 2020. The regular withdrawal factors will apply for 2021, but the benefit is that if you don't have to remove extra funds from this particular savings or investment, then you can have more money to keep and you don't have to liquidate more than you need.
Okay, excellent. So thanks so much for that overview, Tony. Just with the last thing I just want to ask, so you recommended that they apply as soon as possible for those people who suffer job loss, because a payment has already been issued.
Yes,
correct?
so a payment has already been issued, and in fact, we're coming up on the second 4-week period. So the CERB, you are eligible for CERB for a series of 4 months. So the 14 weeks, right? 16 weeks. And so it is recommended that you apply as soon as possible. If for some reason you qualified one 4-week period, but don't qualify the next, the following after that, you can apply again. You have up until October 2020 to receive or apply for this benefit. So I would encourage those who may be on the cusp or thinking, then just apply. I don't recommend applying if you're not eligible, because the worst case scenario is because we're in a pandemic that they are just going to blanketly approve you. And if you are reassessed and are found to not have been eligible, you will be required to pay back the $2,000.
With interest, most likely, if it's a CRA.
I have not seen or heard.
I suspect if you don't qualify and you get that payment and you have to pay back, you will be paying back with interest.
I don't.
CRA is a business.
Yes. So as I said, I don't recommend applying if according to the eligibility requirements, you're not eligible. However, if you are eligible, please go ahead and apply. I would also let our viewers and our members know that roughly around 2 or 3 weeks ago, the CERB benefit was actually amended. to allow for part-time and contract workers who have either lost their full-time employment but are still working part-time to also qualify for the CERB, which means is you have to be working and receiving an income $1,000 or less before taxes for that 4-week period.
Okay.
Right? So for instance, if you were working full time, you were laid off from your job because of COVID-19, however, you work part time at a grocery store, but you make $500 a month, apply for CERB and it will increase your monthly income to $2,500.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tony. I wish we had more time just to talk about this subject, but we've jammed so much into this session. So we're going to wrap there for specifically about CERB. And we have a lot of information which we'll produce for our wider community. And we'll also post on our pages, social media right here on Facebook. And we'll put together something for to send out through our affiliations. So thanks again, Tony. At this time, next I'd like to introduce Mr. Hayden Jones, who is the chair of Carry On and treasurer for CCaDiRA. He has many years of experience working with nonprofit organizations, and he's very committed to disaster preparedness cause, as myself. And Hayden will be our moderator for the second half of tonight's webinar. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Hayden, to take over and take us to the second half. Thank you.
Thanks, Melba, and thanks for that wonderful introduction. Welcome to everybody. So as the global threat of COVID-19 persists, it continues to have countless implications on many industries. One such industry is life insurance. Many are concerned about the impact of the coronavirus on their life insurance policies and other related coverages. To this end, we have invited Aaron George to answer questions on the topic. Aaron is an insurance advisor and a certified life coach who resides in Brampton with his wife and son. Aaron has accumulated a wealth of knowledge over the past 30 years working in the fields of accounting, learning and development, and insurance. Aaron added life coaching to his practice to better understand how adults learn and to be in a position to teach his clients the essentials of life insurance. More importantly, Aaron works with the clients to apply what they have learned to achieve long-term and short-term goals. So with that, what I'd like to do is just invite Aaron to come on and share a little bit about the importance of life insurance, because life insurance is at the foundation of one's financial plan. So it's very important. So Aaron, could you just share with us a couple sentences about why life insurance?
Good evening, everyone. Aaron George, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, CCaDiRA, for having me. And I just would like to, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again, CCaDiRA, for having me here today. And before I get started, I'd just like to extend condolences to everyone that has lost a loved one, a friend, a colleague to COVID-19. And I hope that we will get over this pandemic in very good order. So the purpose of life insurance is a great tool to help families provide income at a time of need. And it could be in time of a death, in time of illness, or in time of illness or sickness.
Okay. Did you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah, insurance in Canada has been around since the 1840s. I think the first policy was sold back in 1846. So we're talking about some companies that have been around a long time, and it's good to know that we have that history, have that track record in Canada, and we become confident in the companies that we're dealing with, because we are talking about security. We know these companies are going to be around to see us through, and they're not here to just take our money and not make payment when claims are due. And actually, in Canada, no company's ever defaulted from making a claim when it's come due. Before a policy is issued, the company has to put aside the money into a reserve, and that reserve is monitored by the federal government. And so that definitely will build great confidence knowing what you're dealing with as a consumer.
Thanks for that. Thanks for getting rid of some of the myths that are out there about life insurance. It's a very important part of your financial plan, like I mentioned. Now, given the fact that we're having so many deaths within our community and obviously not prepared for, people are realizing the importance of insurance, and they're wondering, should I buy life and health insurance at this time?
There is no good time. There is no bad time. I think the purchase is ongoing and based mainly on people's needs. Do you have a need? Do you have a family that's depending on your income? God forbid, if you're not around, what would happen to your family? What would happen also if, in the event that you're not able to work due to sickness or an accident in the terms of disability insurance? So you can buy it in pandemic, where there is no pandemic. It all depends on your need.
Absolutely. Yeah, it should be an everyday thing. So if you don't have life insurance, you should consult your financial advisor.
Absolutely.
Now, can people who currently have life insurance policies, can they have their premiums deferred due to the pandemic?
So I should also state that I'm here speaking on behalf of Aaron, the advisor. I'm not representing any specific company at this point in time. I am a broker, and I represent probably about 12 different companies that I market products for. And I have been receiving communications from some of these companies stating that they do have a deferral program. Every policy currently has a grace period. It's usually 31 days. If a person is not able to pay their premium, they have 31 days to catch up for that premium. They also have a 2-year reinstatement period if a person is not able to pay a premium. Not that I would encourage it, but let's say they went 2 years without paying that premium and they wanted to restart it at the 2-year point, they can catch up for all the premiums that they've missed, plus do a questionnaire, a health questionnaire. And if they're in good health, they could qualify and at a newer premium. Also, regarding the deferral due to COVID, what I would recommend for people that do have current policies and are concerned because they've lost their job, they're in quarantine, maybe they have to take time off to take care of a family member, they should contact their specific company that they're dealing with and find out what their options are in terms of getting the deferral. And the deferral, it's not an elimination of the premium for the time period that they will permit you to do it. You still have to pay that premium at the end of the term. Let's say you went 90 days, you still have to catch up for all those premiums that you've missed. Some companies may charge interest and some may not, but again, seek advice from the specific company that you're dealing with. There's different types of plans, like maybe if you have a permanent insurance that has cash value built into it. What I've seen from some of the communication I've gotten from some of the companies is that you can exhaust that cash value that you have in the plan. It's called an automatic premium loan. It pays the policy for you if you're not able to pay it out of your own means. And after the 12 months is up, if you still are not able to make those premium payments, the company can then talk to you about doing a further deferral. But again, if you do the APL, they will charge you interest on the money that you use to keep the policy afloat.
Okay, yeah, so it's important to note that it is the life insurance that you have, it is a contract that you have with the insurance company, so you're liable to pay the premiums. Now, just a follow-up question. What about, say, paying your premiums on a quarterly basis as opposed to a monthly basis? How would that work, or could it work in this instance?
Definitely, and again, it would be up to the insurer. I've seen some communication that spoke to individuals that pay their plans on an annual basis. The company, like if it's due now, the company again would look at some consideration in doing the deferral for them on that annual payment. I haven't seen anything on the quarterly, but I would suggest that the individuals contact their company and to see what options they have available for them.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, have life insurance premiums increased during this pandemic? Have you seen any of that?
You know, I haven't seen any of that, and that would not be, you know, very nice if companies
I
were to
know.
take advantage of that. Death happens every day. Like 80,000 people, well, actually in 2018, 70,000 people died as a result of cancer. You know, we've lost, unfortunately, 2,900 so far in Canada, almost 3,000 because of this pandemic. We don't know where it's going to go. I imagine if it continues further in, it will. There might have to be some readjustments of the rates because of mortality, and we're also in a low interest environment. So those are some of the factors that probably companies would look at in the future. But as of now, I have not seen any of the companies that I've dealt with increasing their rates, and that wouldn't be something nice.
No, it wouldn't be a nice thing. No.
Yeah. You know, that's capitalizing on a bad
Right,
situation,
right.
and that's not what this industry is all about. It's about helping families to get proper protected and to stay afloat financially, because of death, illness, or
Right.
otherwise.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Now, does the COVID-19 affect existing insurance policies?
So if you have an existing policy prior to, say, March, I've seen some companies that have stipulated, especially for the deferral, March 20th. I've seen some. I know March 11th is when the pandemic was started. So if somebody was to have had an existing policy and death would occur, COVID would not impact it. So that means that the company would go ahead and make the claim. The company would pay out the claim for the family at that point in time.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry if you have an existing policy.
Yes. I mean, yes, because COVID-19 wasn't covered,
Right.
you know, mentioned in that policy, and you're dying because of you're dead. So
Yes.
basically,
and it's not self-inflicted, right?
Exactly.
Because policies do have certain clause. There's the 2-year clause where, God forbid, if a person commits suicide, the company wouldn't pay, but they would just give a refund of the premiums. So COVID is not a self-inflicted situation where the company can challenge individuals on existing policies and say, well, you know, you brought this on yourself, or it's not something to say that people lied about. COVID just came about this year, so it doesn't impact from any existing policies.
Right. So I think you may have touched on this already, but you know, for the new policies, I don't know if the insurance companies have already taken this into consideration, but do you think at any time soon they will be taking into account or adding the COVID-19 into their policies?
So again, with some of the companies that I deal with, I've received communication where they have includes questions regarding COVID-19. And so, as you know, there are traditional companies and there are non-medical companies. And from what I've seen, both companies have included COVID-19 questions.
Okay, thanks for
So,
that.
so again, if people, you know, want to get coverage, they may have some concern, you know, I would say just go through the process, let the underwriters make the decision, you know, visit with your agent. The agents, we have a duty to make sure that we select good cases, because of, you know, we don't be subjected to adverse selection. So you have these advisor using their discretion, and once they forward the application to the companies, the underwriters, they would do their due diligence to make sure that, you know, they have a good case on their hand. If somebody does have an issue, maybe what they might have is a deferred. They can defer the coverage, or they might deny the coverage until the person has overcome the COVID-19. And we know most people are overcoming it. And so if somebody's interested in getting coverage, they have it. Once they have overcome it, then they can apply and go through the process.
Right. And you know, to those of you listening, and I know life insurance can be a very complicated product to understand. So I'd encourage you to speak, you know, with a financial advisor, get some real information about how they work, or try your best in any case. Next question I have for you is, has the medical qualifications to get life insurance changed? Given the fact that we're social distancing and nurses typically come into the home to do medicals?
Well, so what I've seen and what's going on right now with the companies that I deal with, because of social distancing, a lot of business right now is done online. There's some paramed companies that are no longer going to individuals' homes to do the the paramed. Companies are doing a telephone interview for potential clients. And what I've also noticed is that a few companies, they have increased the amount that previously would call for a paramed. So some companies, for individuals that are say between 40 and 50, the max without a medical was 500,000. Some companies have increased it to 100,000. Now the amount varies from company to company, but they've done this in response to accommodate the social distancing.
Good on them. Now, I've heard where someone mentioned to me that some companies actually using Zoom to do medical questionnaires. Have you encountered anything like that?
No. A lot of the companies, they have their own platform, their own e-app platform, and non-face platform. And there's a questionnaire that the client would go through, and they are able to get electronic signatures to different sections of the plan. I don't know of anybody that's incorporated Zoom to go through a questionnaire with the client, because you'd have to have a way to get the client to sign.
Right.
I think the application.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Zoom has that.
Sorry.
I don't think Zoom has that capability. Sorry.
Right. Just in having the conversations, the
Uh-huh.
discussions, the questionnaire, they've been using Zoom, but definitely you would need a signature, whether it be electronic or otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what if I don't feel comfortable taking a medical exam now? Say I'm required to take one and I don't feel comfortable. Can I put it off to a later date?
Well, it depends on your personal situation and your need at that point in time, and the amount of coverage that you are applying for. Also, like I said, there are traditional and non-traditional, like no medical companies out there. With the no medical, you can qualify for a smaller amount of coverage, and some of the no medical plans have a deferral. I've seen a 2-year or 1-year deferral. And what that means is you will get the policy, but a claim will not be paid out for the first 24 months if death occurs. But what will happen is they'll give you a refund of premium if something happens in the first 24 months.
Okay.
So, but again, because of the COVID, there will still be questions regarding COVID.
Definitely, and that makes sense.
In both cases, traditional and non-traditional.
Right.
Non-medical.
Right. Now, what if I'm feeling sick? Should I take the medical exam at that particular time?
If you're feeling sick and you know why you're sick, you know why you're sick, you're just you don't want to waste your time and the company's time, because you can't fool an insurance company. They do their due diligence. They get information for the Medical Information Bureau. If they have any suspicions of a person's application, they can order what's called an APS, attending physician statement. So companies don't just accept policies just on the hop. They do their due diligence before they go through and accept somebody as a client.
Yeah, but as a general rule, I think, if you are feeling sick, it wouldn't be to your benefit to go ahead and have that medical. I would put it off until, and that's just me personally, until you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Couple more questions for you.
Sure.
How soon can death benefits be paid out? Okay,
so again, that would be might be a little variant from company to company, but from what I'm seeing, it could go from a week to 2 weeks, maybe max 2 months. It all depends on the circumstances around the passing, and how soon the beneficiaries can get all the pertinent documents to the insurance company when making the claim.
Right. Now, I hope you haven't been through this, but during this pandemic, have life insurance companies, moved up the payment date? Like, have they reduced the number of days that they would pay out a claim based, like if it was due to the COVID-19?
I couldn't answer that specifically. I reached out to one of the companies that I dealt with, and basically what he stated to me was, it all depends on how quickly they can get all the pertinent information. And once they get it, then the underwriter can go through and make the decision in a timely manner. But I couldn't say specifically a timeline for the payment.
Got it. Okay. All right. Last question for you before I hand it back over to Melba. Now, do insurers cover disabilities that are related to COVID-19?
So right now, current policies don't have any exclusions or inclusions regarding COVID-19. So COVID-19 may not be covered directly, but there's other issues that could come out of COVID-19, like could be heart or lung or kidney. So those other disabilities would be covered. COVID itself may not be covered, but the stuff that it brings on, right, that triggers an illness, let's say a critical illness, those things will still be covered.
Okay, great. Wonderful. This has been an amazing time sharing and answering questions with the audience, Aaron. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Very well done. I'd just like to hand it back over to Melba to see if we have any questions from the viewers and then wrap up the segment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hayden. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron, you answered my question because that came up in the bereavement session last week about payout from insurance and with the time delay. So thanks for answering. Thanks, Hayden, for asking that question, and thanks, Aaron, for answering that question. So once again, if everybody, whoever was listening or watched the recording, if somebody passes and they have to be buried within 1 week, right? The death benefits are usually paid within 2 weeks. There's only maybe some circumstances where it be paid within a couple of days, correct? So that was something that did come up. So you heard Aaron here, life insurance policy confirming that as well. So you need to have that cash on hand for, just for a wider audience. So I just wanted to reiterate that. So thanks again, guys. That was very informative. Pretty much asked all of the questions. We did have a question come in though, and it is about our first topic. I'm just going to ask Tony to join us back here so she can help answer that question that has come in from a viewer. So welcome back, Tony. Thank you. I'm just going to unmute you here. Give me 1 second. Okay, Tony, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. So I know you sort of answered it in at the last part when we were speaking, but Richard St. Bernard sent in a question here. He said he just wants to understand a little bit more about undocumented people here in Toronto. What exactly would they be eligible for? And are they eligible for any stimulus funds that are made available from the government?
Okay. So undocumented and without a visa, without a work permit, and you're here in Canada legally, or your papers have run out or they have expired. If that is the case, while the application eligibility, the CERB eligibility requirements do not state anything about having status in Canada. This is my personal opinion and personal belief. Applying for such programming would inevitably alert or make your status situation known to Service Canada and the government of Canada. So my only personal worry would be eventually CBSA getting involved. if there is an issue with a work permit or visa. If you are within a valid work permit or a visa, then there is no status requirement, and you reside in Canada, you're older than 15, you're either working part-time, and if you are working part-time, you're making less than $1,000 for the month, and you have lost your job as a result of COVID-19, go ahead and apply for CERB. I just also do want to reiterate that international students, while they do not qualify for the Canadian Emergency Student Benefit, which is still in Parliament right now, and the Prime Minister's goal is to have that available for May. While international students do not qualify for that, they may qualify for CERB. So if they tick off all the boxes for eligibility requirements for CERB, then it is my recommendation that they also go ahead and apply for that as well. Also, with regard to international students, the 20-hour cap on working hours has been removed. So if they are able to and are working in an essential service, so that could be in the healthcare, that could be in food distribution, that could be at a grocery store that is still open because they are designated as an essential service, then they can work more than just the 20 hours that they were restricted to prior to COVID-19.
Okay, thanks, Tony. I just wanted to make one comment again about undocumented immigrants because of our wider Caribbean community. If you do find yourself in that situation, what I personally recommend is that you contact your local consul general, their consulate office, for some guidance and for some assistance, opposed to, like you said, alerting, yourself, and it may be negatively impacting you in the long run. So that's just my personal advice to them.
Yeah, I would just also add to that, in addition to reaching out to your consulate offices, also reach out to non-governmental agencies and social services. They're organizations that do not require you to prove status, do not require that you show a visa or even your health card information. Quite frankly, Toronto is known as a sanctuary city, and most frontline workers know that. So providing documentation is not necessarily a requirement. They may sometimes ask just for their own reporting services, in reporting requirements and funding, but it is not a requirement to receive their services. So if you find that you are undocumented and you are looking to receive either financial support or food to feed your family, reach out to the social services in your neighborhood and in your community. Also reach out to your local association. Many of us have associations tied to our country of origin, and they should be able to help us.
Excellent. We just had another question come in here, Tony. The benefit, our stimulus packages that are available, are they provincial, federal? Is there any, one on top of the other? Can you just give us some clarity on that, please? So if you get a provincial one, do you apply? Do you qualify for a federal one, etc.? How does that work?
So most of the benefits that are rolling out right now and the economic supports, they are all federal. So CERB is federal, which is the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. The HST top up that many of us would have received around April 9th, that's federal. The Canada Child Benefit Support, they'll be also topping that up with a one-time payment. That is also federal. The Canadian Emergency Student Benefit, that'll be a federal support program. A lot of these are federal, and there is also the student loan deferral. So if you are a recent graduate or you are still paying your student loans, the government of Canada has issued a deferral of all payments, including interest on your principal for, let's see, when is it? From March 30th to September 30th. Now, this is something that you qualify for automatically. You can call and verify with if your loan is still with the government of Canada, or if it's with a credit agency, you can always double check with them, but it is something that they would have automatically enrolled you in. Provincially, the Ontario government has also announced that they are deferring student loans for that same period. Whether or not that's something that's happening across all the provinces, I would guess and say yes, but I would strongly recommend that our viewers double check with their provincial entities. But as far as federal loans, they are being deferred.
Okay, we have some more questions coming in here, and actually these might be our two final questions because we're getting on top of the hour. Actually, I have one for you, Aaron, and I have a final one for you, Tony, before we wrap up. Okay. So Aaron, a question came in here. What happens if I don't have life insurance or no money for burial? Is there something else that I can apply for?
Yes, the federal government has a death benefit under the Canada Pension Plan. I think it's around $2,600 that the family can find. I know it's not much, but it's a little help from the federal government.
Okay, so there is some funding available.
Yeah. Are you aware of anything else, Hayden?
Let me just see if I can unmute Hayden here.
As an advisor.
Sorry, Hayden, just give me 1 second. Okay, Hayden, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, good on you for mentioning the CPP benefit, Canada Pension Plan benefit. That is if you've paid into and made contributions to the Canada Pension Plan, and it's based on qualification. So not necessarily everybody, and not everybody will get the same amount. Outside of that, I think you're looking at your the provincial government social services. They may have some benefits available to you. Okay.
Great, thank you. So Tony, just one last question. We'll take this as our last question and I'll just wrap it up. Tony, so CERB requires a social insurance number, your SIN number, to identify eligibility. So what happens with somebody without status? So how could somebody without status get funds? So if they don't have a social insurance number?
So if you don't have a social insurance number, but you match up with all the other eligibility requirements, they're recommending that you call either CRA or Service Canada directly, because some allowances may be made. It's at their discretion as it's a federally funded benefit. But that's what I've been hearing so far in the news, is that if you are without a SIN, but you qualify otherwise, that they will make allowances for that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. So I just want to remind everybody, this is a part of a three-part segment. So we've covered now bereavement amidst the COVID-19, this segment here, financial security amidst the COVID-19, and we have a huge segment coming up, mental health, the psychological effects amidst the COVID-19. That will be a double segment. It's an important topic. As we discuss mental health, a lot of people are suffering with mental health issues with quarantine, self-isolation during this time. We have Dr. Leo Edwards and Keith Cunningham, who will be discussing coping with the coronavirus, aka COVID-19. So please join in and continue to follow us. Please like and follow our social media feeds. We'll work on the Facebook feed. We'll see what other options, but as you can see, YouTube is working really well for us. We'll iron out the details with Facebook. And please also remember that we are CCaDiRA, we are umbrella organization, and we encourage the other islands to form their respective disaster preparedness organizations. And we also encourage the general public to support them and volunteer for those organizations as well. And just in closing, I just want to thank, first of all, Tony, for all your great information and insight that you gave us regarding CERB. I learned a lot this evening, and I'm sure our wider community has learned a lot as well. Thanks, Hayden, for bringing some insight to what we discussed about life insurance, as well as hosting along with Aaron. Thank you so much for being our special guest with us here. I'm really hoping this is not the last time that we'll be sitting down and talking with you. We don't know where these webinar series are going to take us. We don't know what other subjects and we'll be discussing here, but hopefully you'll be coming back and we'll be discussing other subjects with you as well. So I just want to thank everybody and continue to send in your questions. You can communicate with us via Facebook or to our email, and our information is all on our Facebook feeds, and any information that you've received through our respective affiliations under our umbrella. So I thank you all and have a good night.
All
Night,
thank
everybody.
you. Good night.
Good night.